You are a big four man who isn't starting from ground zero with women, but somehow, because of what 2020 has wrought or for whatever reason, you feel like you've lost your mojo. You want it back and also want to bypass the trial and error of figuring it all out by yourself. That's what laser coaching is for. You get unlimited 20-minute sessions with me personally anytime a tactical issue comes up. You've met a woman and you want to get it right. You see a pattern happening when relating to women that you want to put an end to. You're messaging back and forth and want to make sure you get to meet in person. Whatever the scenario, you get real answers and a solid action plan. Yes, you get unlimited sessions for an entire year. Right now, for a limited time, I'm also opening up my entire members area to you when you get in on laser coaching. That way, you also have the entire library of X and Y Communications ebooks and multimedia programs as a valuable resource. You can't beat it, gentlemen. Get all the details at mountaintoppodcast.com/laser. That's mountaintoppodcast.com/laser, LASER. And now, buckle up for a fantastic show ahead. My guest is none other than Luke DePron, and we're talking about what to do if 2020 has snuck up on you in the worst way possible. Here we go.
Live from the mist-enshrouded mountaintop fortress that is X and Y Communications headquarters, you're listening to the world-famous Mountaintop Podcast. And now, here's your host, Scott McKay.
All right, gentlemen, welcome again to yet another episode of the world-famous Mountaintop Podcast. My name is Scott McKay, at Scott McKay on both Twitter and Parler, Real Scott McKay on Instagram, and YouTube is there for you. Lots of good videos there, and even video versions of this very podcast. That's Scott McKay on YouTube. The website is mountaintoppodcast.com. And listen, guys, if you have not yet joined the thriving Facebook group called the Mountaintop Summit, go there, join it, get with a band of brothers who are like-minded, and after being a great man, getting great women in their lives just like you are. Today, I have a new friend of mine on as a guest. His name is Luke DePron. He hails from beautiful, sunny San Diego, California. He is the host of the Live Great Lifestyle podcast, and Live Great Lifestyle is indeed his brand and what he's all about. And today, we're going to talk about a topic that I don't know if it's overdue or not, but it's definitely timely and important. And even after this whole lockdown, coronavirus, COVID-19 thing is behind us in a couple of years, I trust that this show will still resonate with lots of you guys. And that topic is basically how not to turn into a bump on a log during this whole COVID-19 thing. Like, let's put it this way. Has 2020 kind of snuck up on you in the worst way possible? You used to have a better mindset. You're letting pessimism creep in a little bit. You know, you put on the lockdown 15, as I think I've heard it called, and you're just, you're feeling a little bit down in the dumps. And it's kind of because you've been shut in and not able to be social and all the unrest and all the worry about catching a virus and getting sick. Hey, you know what? It takes its toll, not only psychologically, but also physically. And Luke is going to talk to all those points and more. So I want to welcome on the show, Luke. Great to have you, man.
Scott, it is absolutely my pleasure to be here, man. Thank you for the time.
Yeah, spoken like a healthy guy who's not down in the dumps with COVID-19. You know, you and I were talking about finding a topic. And you're a health and fitness guy. You're all about men being at peak performance physically. When they go to a doctor, you want to minimize the amount of bad news because we took care of our health ahead of time. All those things are extremely important to all of us. And yet, with all of the psychological baggage we've been carrying around these days with COVID and the civil unrest going on and it being an election year, perhaps the most polarizing election in United States history. And, you know, I'd say that knowing a lot of guys are outside the United States listening to this show, but I sometimes lurk on the Twitter feeds and Facebook feeds of people overseas. And I know really people are polarized all over the world. A lot of angry people, a lot of people kind of lashing out. It's easy to really get drawn into that. And the next thing you know, it's kind of like boiling the frog, isn't it? It's a slow burn, but you're drawn into not really being as optimistic or as healthy as you were back in, say, February, right?
Yeah, that's interesting to think about back in February, right? As we start a new year and people have New Year's goals, oftentimes in their health wellness space, and to think where we are now. Man, times have changed, and what a unique world that we have found ourselves in. And I do think there's a point now where we have to step back and realize that that self-care aspect, taking control of us, is our number one priority, because some of these things truly are out of our hands. Obviously, we're not going to personally control a global pandemic.
Yeah, you're right. A lot of things that are completely outside our own circle of influence, which of course is the buzzword to describe those things we do have under our control, right, are what's affecting us. Sure, a lot of people have died from coronavirus. We're being locked down. It's mandated. We're wearing a mask. There's rioting in the streets. And meanwhile, some people are denying there's rioting and violence in the streets. And it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to us. Yet it's up to us to make the best of this situation for ourselves. Everything we can control is what matters, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's interesting when I think about specifically the lockdown, and there's two types of people that are kind of going through this experience right now. And there's some people, like you mentioned, the lockdown 15. Some people, we've fallen out of habits. Maybe we've developed poor habits. We've put on the weight. But then there's other people that are in the same exact experience, and they've recognized that, hey, actually, I have more time now. I'm at home where I can cook more meals, or I can focus on myself, evaluating the internal environment and what do you need to do to push through? Because we're all going down the same path. We're all having, similar experiences of having to be locked down, but yet some of us are, like I said, lockdown 15. And other of us are maybe building other habits and adapting and changing and finding new strategies to implement to allow us to keep growing, keep becoming that greater version of ourselves. And I think this is ultimately a choice, and it is a challenging one, but it is a choice that we do have.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting to talk about this topic, because how you handled the inevitable disruption that we all faced really did decide where you are right now, 5 months later. Was this a negative thing that spiraled you into deep depression? Well, this is something that's been done to you then. But if your mindset is more, hey, maybe my life did need to be unsettled. I was kind of stuck in a rut and I needed a new change of plan. Then this, as silly as it sounds to many, this could possibly be perceived as something that happened for you instead of to you.
I love the perspective, because the reality is this is the situation. So what's the perspective that you want to choose? And what an empowering place to move forward from if you do take that perspective, because it gives you options. And ultimately, that's what we want. We want options to be able to move forward through whatever it is that we're facing. And again, just taking it to the health and fitness thing, and a very tangible example of, hey, if you're at home more often now, you have more of an opportunity to actually take control of your meals, where before it was so easy to fall into eating out. I mean, little tiny things like that. It's a very simple but practical way of looking at, like, ooh, there's a fork in the road here, and which way am I going to go?
And, you read all about the gloom and doom on CNN and Fox News and any other outlet you're consuming, because that's what sells, right? But there's plenty of evidence out there, of course, that the bad news media is not going to ever refer to, that, oh yeah, a lot of people took full advantage of making the COVID lockdown a good thing for them. You and I are both bicycle guys, so I know a lot of bicycle shops and their owners. And when the lockdown started, all those guys were scrambling because they thought for sure they were going to have to close down their businesses and they would suffer financially. But every single one of them has thrived through COVID-19. Everyone I've talked to has like a 6-week backlog in fixing bicycles, and they can't keep new bicycles on the floor because people said, hey, you know what? I want to get out of the house. I want to do something active. And the first thing they thought of was, I'm going to ride my bike around. And so a lot of people have become more fit and realized, hey, you know what? I wasn't getting enough recreation in my life. And now that I've been told I can't go out and socialize, or I can't go out and do this, human nature says, oh yeah, here's what I'm going to do instead. I'm going to not do what you told me to do. And I'm going to do those things that take me outside as long as they're kind of just barely within the boundaries. And bicycling absolutely was the quintessential example. And you see, indeed, bikes all over my neighborhood. It's pretty amazing. So yeah, plenty of people are making good use of this. You're not an outlier if you're trying to have a good attitude towards this, are you?
Yeah. And I loved the example of bicycles, because we're all going to have to adapt to this. Again, I hate to say new norm, but what's happening in the world right now. And just the other day, I went to the grocery store, and there's a gym that they've yanked all their equipment out into the parking lot, which in a way was funny because they're just as close, but it's like they're making it work. They're getting it done. They're adapting. They're choosing a new path. And I think it's something that we're all going to have to do on so many different layers. And you did mention something earlier, like the psychological side. I think it's so important that we have to make these adjustments, or psychologically it's, man, we are going to fall down that hill. I think the depressive symptoms rear their head, the anxiety, we're stuck inside. But remembering like, hey, we do have options, we do have choices, and like, boom, right there. More people are out on bicycles. It's like, what a great avenue to take up. And so just looking around at your specific environment, where you live, obviously in the world, in the United States, what do you have access to? Is it hiking trails? Like there's absolutely somewhere to move. There is some fork in the road and a decision that you can make that's going to take you further towards where you want to be, whether it's, again, emotionally, mentally, physically, and not allowing these circumstances to completely like shunt that growth.
I would argue that all of the physical aspects of 2020 sneaking up on us, and indeed all the practical aspects, or nearly all of them, many of them certainly, completely follow from our psychological mindset. I mean, that's where it all starts. You got to have the right mindset. You've got to somehow stay positive and optimistic and think in terms of being a doer instead of being a victim, or it's all going to go swirling down the toilet.
Couldn't agree more, man. Yeah, choosing to not be in that victim mindset. Even if it's the most dire of circumstances, it's the only place that you can operate from. It's the only place that gives you the potential to improve. I do think that's a challenging thing to do, or challenging mindset to adopt, depending on, your unique circumstances. Again, you could be somebody that actually is laid off. You could be somebody who has put on the 50 pounds. But when you step into the idea that, you are not the victim, it gives you the out. It gives you the opportunity to find the avenue, to find the direction that you can go to actually step into some change. And that is step one. If you don't have that, man, you're going to be stuck.
Yeah, and I don't think we can discount the possibility that people listening to this show have been directly affected by the virus. Either they
huge
caught COVID-19 themselves and had to battle it and maybe had a negative physical reaction to it, unlike some other people who are asymptomatic, or some people have lost loved ones, and this hurts deeply. And the whole idea of not being able to have a funeral for those folks, not being able to go to church, have that faith community, things absolutely weigh heavily on our psychology. And what would you tell guys who have experienced some of those things? It sounds kind of Pollyannish just to say, buck up, little buckaroo, and, feel good about this. What are some practical ways that we can really take back our psychological well-being here, Luke?
Well, I do think, and I'll speak for myself, I think community is huge. So having someone that you can directly reach out to. Obviously, you have a Facebook community that provides a platform for men. Hopefully men have, maybe smaller circles and people that they can confide in, because as much as, plant your flag and push forward is a great mantra, at the same time, if you are, I think, finding yourself in that psychological downturn, reaching out for support is huge. Having a tribe of men, having mentors, friends, people that you can connect with, which obviously as a guy who runs a dating community, connection right now is very different. Your interaction with people is extremely different. The lack of it, I think, is huge. So whether that is even a Zoom call, right? If you can't physically go out because maybe you are, unfortunately, catch this, maybe a Zoom call. But I do think the community and connection aspect from a psychological side is extremely important, because if you just sit in it on your own, man, I think it's tough to get out.
I think a lot of people indeed feel very alone in the negative effects that they're feeling from this, when in reality, we are really all in it alone together, as I've heard it said. I mean, that's a bit of a misrepresentation, because certainly a lot of people are being affected very differently by all of this than others. So it's not like there's this monolithic uniform experience we're all in. But take the premise, for example, you just brought up of dating and relating to women. Every single person I've talked to, man or woman, Luke, is complaining about online dating right now, and nobody wants to meet. And the frequency of the whole ghosting thing is triplicate compared to what it was back in February. And there are a lot of people out there who are just saying, I'm lonely and I don't want to be. Yet the opportunities to go relate to someone of the other gender who I might be attracted to just simply aren't there. And the first thing I want to tell you guys who are listening is you are absolutely not alone. Everybody is feeling that. But, there are other aspects of this too. Health, fitness. If you've been affected by this from a health perspective, if you're laid up because of COVID-19, if you've lost your job and you just can't afford to go out and buy a bicycle right now, all of those very important factors will weigh down on a person. I mean, let's talk about the idea of having lost one's job and not being able to afford anything right now, vis-a-vis not being able to physically go out and do anything about it. I mean, how does that affect your psychology? I mean, the answer might be obvious, but I'm sure you have lots to add on that subject.
Yeah. And, I'm somebody who I did feel like those financial effects of COVID. Here in San Diego, obviously, fortunately, I have lots of opportunity to be outside in great weather. There's trails, our beaches have reopened. But I will say this, for somebody who, anytime I've slipped into depressive or anxiety type symptoms, which I definitely have, I have to use my physical body as the tool to hack my mind and emotions. That has been my avenue. Again, using physical fitness to tweak my mind. It's the easiest tool that I have in reach. It can be accessible anywhere. I don't have to go to a gym to do it. That doesn't necessarily maybe need to be the answer for someone else. For someone else, again, it could be a phone call to somebody, an emotional connection. But I think we have to have some tools in our tool belt, and they can be unique to you, to move your emotional state. Because if we are down in the dumps with what's going on in the world, we got to have some tool to move that state. And again, for me, the easiest and most accessible is to use my body physically. It could be hiking a trail. When I say a trail, it could be just a park repetitively, to just physically feel different. If I can make my body physically feel different, my emotions and mind can shift. It doesn't fix the situation, of course, but it puts me in a place now where I can emotionally and mentally be clear enough to think about, what the heck am I going to do? What am I going to change? What am I going to shift? Because I know if I'm in that negative emotional state, I have no chance of thinking clearly enough to make the good decision.
Hey, man, listen, I can personally vouch for the validity of the premise you're talking about right now. These guys know I just lost a whole bunch of weight. After 3 days of giving up the alcohol and going on a keto diet, I found my psychology changed. Indeed. Because I was treating my body better, I was feeling better. When you're out of shape, your brain starts playing dirty little tricks on you. Like, you're just getting old, you're getting fat. Just relax and let it happen. And it's almost a hypnotic effect to cause you to become more unhealthy, which is by definition less healthy. And yet, when you take back control physically, even when you go into a gym and you release the endorphins and all those things that chemically prove the concept we're talking about right now, it's amazing, or at least it was to me, and you seem to be echoing this sentiment, how your psychology responds to you doing something physically. And I think a lot of guys, if they haven't really tapped into that potential in a while, they kind of forget what it was like to go to the gym and really get a good workout in and be on cloud nine for the rest of the day. Or, they've let the LBs creep up a little bit and they feel fat and lazy and kind of old and, what if I die young, so be it. It's almost like you have to shake that off and go, no, you have to draw a line in the sand and go, this is a lie. This is a dirty little trick my mind is playing on me. And you almost have to fly by wire at first and say, look, I'm going to trust that if I take control over this, if I take ownership over becoming physically healthier, the psychological benefits are going to follow. And I can't underscore that enough. Luke, you're the expert on all of this, man. What practical advice would you give men who can relate to what we're talking about here?
Well, I'm going to follow that up with every person that I've worked with, or I shouldn't say every person. The majority of people that I've worked with, they do step into this with generally a physical goal, right? Like, I need to lose 20 or 30 pounds. But I promise you this, every single person who sees the path through to get to that goal, they end up doing it because of how they feel. And you see this all the time, probably on Facebook and on social media. That person who finds fitness, they become the most obnoxious asshole ever. And all they do is rant about their CrossFit workout and their food. And you're like, okay, we get it. And the reason they're doing that is it's because of how they physically feel. So again, the physical change might be the stimulus, but how you physically or how you emotionally and mentally feel is what's going to pull you through. And I'm going to give a tangible example. So Jeff, a client of mine who's a 49-year-old guy, entrepreneur, 2 daughters, wife, lots going on in his plate, building a successful business, let the health and fitness kind of fall to the wayside. By losing just 20 pounds, I look at this photo of him, the 20 pounds isn't this radical change. But when I read what he writes, and it's old Jeff versus new Jeff, it's how he's showing up in the world. It's how he's showing up in his relationships with his wife, with his kids. And then this past weekend, he just pushed himself a little further and went and did a 350-mile bike ride in 3 days when he'd never ridden further than 100 miles at one time. And it just created a tool to help him understand that he can expand the capacity of what he is capable of doing. And that to me is the big win. That's the big value of stepping into that practice. I get it that I want to lose 20 or 30 pounds, but the rewards are going to be so much more overarching, and they impact and they infiltrate, I think, every facet of our life, again, from relationships to our jobs, our careers, I mean, our mood, all of those things. So yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Well, I mean, there's a tangible transformation there. It's not like, hey, I think I have more confidence. I think I'm doing better meeting women or interacting with them. It's like you can look at the freaking photographs and see the difference, and you can feel it. You can feel yourself sleeping better at night. Your body works better. The physical symptoms are going away. So yeah, man, those guys are stoked. And it's interesting, as you were talking, Luke, I'm reminded of how health and fitness is marketed to people as making you look better, making you look sexier. And I've always found it strange how they kind of underplay the physical benefits. You're going to feel healthier. You're going to live longer. You're not going to die of a heart attack. And, especially men's health programs are infamous for talking about sexual benefits. You're going to get bigger erections that are going to last longer, and you'll be able to perform better in the bedroom. Yeah, well, all that's because you're less likely to freaking die of a heart attack, man. You're also not going to have a stroke. You're going to add 20, 30 years to your life instead of sitting around like a bump on a log. And that's never talked about. And I can't understand why people focus on, okay, I got a better erection, or I'm going to look better in my Speedos than this real life-saving benefit to it. I mean, literally everything in your life is at stake. And yes, that doesn't surprise me at all how everybody, almost to a person, who takes control of this part of their life and loses the 20 pounds, the 30 pounds, the 150 pounds, crows about it and is excited about it because they think you ought to do it too. Because quite literally every part of your life, and I would argue even the spiritual part of your life, improves when you take control of this stuff.
Man, I couldn't agree more. I mean, the dumbed down way of saying it is, hey, this is the meat sack, the vessel that is taking you through this experience called life. And what are the things that you like to do? And if you had a better working vehicle, those things would be more enjoyable. You mentioned confidence. And when I think of, I've listened to your show and I think about the big four, and confidence is an interesting one to me because obviously we're talking confidence with women. And you could probably answer this better than I, but my guess would be if you pooled, thousands of women, I don't know that the average woman is looking for a fitness model bodybuilder. I assume they're actually not. But I think the big value add of confidence is, again, confidence in, you can follow through. Confidence in, when things get hard, that you can continue to push. Confidence in, if I put in effort, I get a result. And to me, those are like the big wins and probably the personality changes that are going to show up when it correlates to that dating or that courtship or speaking to a woman, much so more than probably, oh, he's got a six pack.
Such a solid take there. And I'll tell you, I can hit that from lots of different angles. The first one being, you're absolutely correct. Women don't need you to look like a bodybuilder. What women appreciate is a man who's doing the best with what he's got. Are you dressing well? Are you taking care of yourself? Are your nails clean? Are you brushing your teeth? Have you a fresh haircut? All of those things women look at. Women famously talk about looking at a man's shoes first when they show up on a first date with him, and guys are often nonplussed by that. That's what we're talking about here. And you also mentioned, of course, how confidence translates to being able to get things handled in your life better. Being able to make better decisions, not wimping out when the chips are down because you've got this. Why is all of this so important in the realm of dating and relationships? Because masculinity to women involves a man's ability to provide, protect, and preside. The 3 Ps, right? If you don't have any wherewithal whatsoever, if you can't even bathe yourself, if you can't even make sure your socks match, if you don't brush your teeth, if you lack self-esteem in general, if something goes bump in the night and you say to your wife, very dangerous, you go first to see what's out there, she's going to lose attraction for you, you know. And yet when you gain confidence, your self-talk changes to, I got this, instead of I better run away and hide from this. And there's a pandemic above and beyond the obvious COVID-19 pandemic of men thinking, hey, you know what? I don't have to be so mentally tough anymore. Mental toughness is an option. I can stay in my mommy's basement with Cheeto fingers playing video games all day and let her do the laundry and just go to work, clock in, clock out, and never do anything. Because I don't have to protect my tribe from the neighboring tribe. I don't have to fight down saber-toothed tigers. I don't have to go kill my own food to feed my family. In this postmodern world, there really is a wonderful built-in excuse to just not really need a whole lot of mental toughness. Because mental toughness on the surface is hard. It's not something that's easy. Otherwise, it would be called mental easiness, aka the easy button. But, gentlemen, if you want to be attractive to women, you better believe in mental toughness. Because that's what makes a woman feel safe and comfortable in your presence. This guy can get things handled. This guy can make decisions under pressure. When the chips are down, he's Johnny on the freaking spot. And that makes women horny. It doesn't just make women like you or think you're cute. It has a visceral effect on their image of who the hell you are. And when you've taken control of your health, when you've looked what's commonly considered a crisis like COVID-19 in the eye and said, I'm going to rise up to meet this challenge, and you do it, not only are you inspiring to your family, your friends, your fellow brethren, women perk up and notice because all of a sudden you have demonstrated you're the kind of man who deserves what you want, which is a high quality woman in your life. And when women are confident enough to show their feminine gifts to you, you're going to find so many ways a woman can enhance your life above and beyond sexually. She will treat you like a hero. You will be her hero. She will love the decision-making you make on her behalf and on behalf of your family if you're a father, and you will be treated to joy, comfort, play, and fun, and all the things we live for on weekends because you, yes, you, took control of this, rose up to meet any challenge that 2020 threw at you, and prevailed. And it's all about mental toughness, and I know this is a rant, but you started it, Luke. Continue.
Well, I'm going to piggyback on there. And I know you're a married man. I'm engaged. And, I think
Good
about,
for you.
Thank you. I think about a common platitude is, I promise to love you unconditionally. And that's, I feel like great sentiment, but why do we also not have the same sentiment of, I promise to show up in the best condition for you to love me? And that condition doesn't, of course, just mean physical. I think it means emotionally and mentally, spiritually, the whole thing. And so really to me, it's coming down to that desire to improve, to do our best, to try harder, to get up when we fail, because it's going to happen, to learn from when we fail. And yeah, that's, I share that sentiment of continuously trying to improve, not from a place of lack, but from a place of just trying to get better.
I think when you sum it up, this year, 2020, represents a line in the sand that you're either going to treat like an opportunity or a liability. And I've heard from a lot of people, Luke, and I'm sure you have too. And I mean, I kind of feel it myself. You know how they say time flies as you get older? Man, 2020 has been the exception to that freaking rule. I mean, it just seems like 2020 has gone on for about a decade. I mean, if you think back to New Year's when COVID-19 wasn't even in our vocabulary and everything we were doing in January, man, it just seems that mid-March is half a lifetime away from here in the rearview mirror. Someone said at the end of June on Facebook, and, I had to kind of chuckle about it. You mean this year is only half over? I mean, what the hell is yet to happen here? And yeah, I mean, at the time we're recording this, we got a whole lot of 2020 left to go. But the beauty of it is you have a choice as a man. You can decide how you're going to handle it. Is it going to defeat you, or are you going to beat it over the head with a shovel until it stops twitching? I love that line. And I think that's really what it all comes down to. And I think you've offered some really great motivation, and we've added some practical elements to it also, which is terrific. In particular, I think all of us do well to wrap our head around how multidimensionally this can affect us, how holistically. Mind, body, soul, psychology, spirituality, all of that is just, it can have insidious effects that, like we talked about in the title of the show, can sneak up on you. So what a timely show, what a relevant show. And what I want to do, guys, is send you to Luke DePron's website called Live Great Lifestyle. And I've set up a special URL, which is mountaintop.podcast.com/Luke. We've never had a Luke on before. How about that?
All right.
And
first,
when they go there, Luke, you've got a free resource for them called Lean Body Guide. What's that about?
This will give you more tactical, tangible, practical ways of actually stepping forward into a health and fitness practice. My whole philosophy with exercise is based on minimal effective dose. You do not have to live, breathe, eat, have your life taken over by exercise. You don't have to pretend to be a bodybuilder or a fitness model and live that lifestyle. You need to find a way of implementing some strategies that work within the confines of what you have going on in your life. If you're a parent, if you have a busy job. And so this will give you a framework to help you integrate kind of the three main pillars, which are movement, resistance training, and then nutrition, with the goal being a long-term play. This is the Live Great lifestyle. So there's no short-term fix here. This is a way to create some sustainable habits built around, again, minimal effective dose exercise strategies. So this is something that you don't just keep up for 90 days, but you keep up for the next year, 9 years, and help you step into that greater version of yourself.
Well, I think that sounds like music to all of our ears because, indeed, Luke, the vast majority of us don't want to become a professional bodybuilder. We are very intimidated by the premise of having to spend hours and hours in the gym and go on this draconian diet and give up everything we love just to stay alive. And for you to say, okay, here's what you need to do to get the results you want, nothing less, nothing more, and make it very practical, something I think guys can really sink their teeth into.
To follow that up, I think you can radically transform your physique with 3 to 4 45-minute workouts each week. That, again, can be transformational. Of course, if you want to take it a step further and go to do these physical challenges like Jeff, where you're going to ride 350 miles, that's for your mind. But as far as for your body, 3 to 4 45-minute workouts each week can have radical transformation when you pair a few of the other lifestyle activities. Again, the nutrition, a little bit of the movement stuff. It is absolutely something that every man is capable of doing. Most overestimate what it takes while simultaneously undervaluing the impact it will have in your life.
From a nutrition perspective, I love the concept of feeding the muscle, not the fat.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. And for a lot of us middle-aged guys who find ourselves being insulin resistant, which is very dangerous to your future health and your current health for that matter, that premise is pure gold, to be honest. So I love what you're doing. I love the idea of the Lean Body Guide. And guys, you can pick up your free copy of that by going to mountaintoppodcast.com/Luke, Luke. Once again, thank you so much, Luke, for joining us. This has been a fantastic conversation.
Scott, is absolutely my pleasure. I've been enjoying the show, so thanks for letting me come on and be a guest.
Yeah, man. And guys, go ahead and visit mountaintoppodcast.com, not only so you can check out the show notes for this very show, but you can check out the show notes for other shows as well. Get on my daily mailing list where I give you real, practical, actionable ways to get better with women, be a better man, and to move forward in your life through COVID-19 lockdown scenarios and on into the future after this is all behind us. Also, guys, look. Get on the phone free for 25 minutes and let's talk about where you are right now and where you want to be. I'm here for you. I'm exactly who you think I'm going to be. You can sign up for free right there on the website when you click the red button in the upper right-hand corner at mountaintoppodcast.com. While you're there, also check out Jocko Willink and the other good folks over at Origin Maine. Guys, they got fantastic supplements. They've got the world's best protein powder called Molk, of all things, because it's got monk fruit sweetening it. And they even have an excellent protein powder for kids called Warrior Kids. As you guys probably know by now, both of my youngest are athletes, and they've been drinking up Warrior Kid on race day, and it delivers them real results. You can see the difference. They just have all the energy they need right before their race time is. And I'll tell you, I've been using the adult grown man version of Molk in my life, and it really is excellent stuff. And you can also find their D3 supplement, which is the best money can buy, and you won't even have to spend a lot of money to get it. A lot of you guys are also involved with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as a way of kind of toughening up and getting your man aggressions out there and building your self-esteem and your mental toughness that we've talked about on this show, as well as many others. Origin is all about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because Jocko himself is all about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And they have got the coolest gis for BJJ that you can possibly get. Several of you guys have actually picked up a few, and I've heard the reports. And just like their jeans and boots, it's good quality stuff. Check out the guys at Origin Maine by going to mountaintoppodcast.com/origin, ORIGIN. And when you do, use Mountain10 as a coupon code at checkout, and it will get you an additional 10% off their already reasonable prices over there. And until I talk to you again real soon, this is Scott McKay from X and Y Communications in San Antonio, Texas. Be good out there.
The Mountaintop Podcast is produced by X and Y Communications. All rights reserved worldwide. Be sure to visit www.mountaintoppodcast.com for show notes. And while you're there, sign up for the free X and Y Communications newsletter for men. This is Ed Roy Odom speaking for the Mountaintop Podcast.